Yes. The 5-minute Dedede. Now, I won't shy away from the obvious fact here, but of course, you probably want me to address why Dedede became a butterfly instead of a penguin. But first, let's switch to the remastered version. Now, the butterfly thing. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't actually know. These things kind of happen on a whim, so I don't have the slightest explanation of why it happened. However, wouldn't you say that the Dedede to butterfly transformation went extremely well? I mean, you got the beautiful wings, the adorable little feet, the no antenna because of his hat. It's honestly the best decision I've ever made. Speaking of his wings, let's talk about those. A solid sheet of red, topped with a beautiful white fur all around the outside. The white fur and the red sheet come together to form a beautiful fuzz wing that actually kind of resembles a hoodie now that I stare at it really hard. I mean, at that point, aren't hoodies kind of just robes? Now, how did I come to this choice? Well, this actually took a lot of deep research and analyzation. See, if we take a look at Dedede, in most instances of his existence, he is most undoubtedly always wearing his kingly robe, exhibiting his kingly vibes. Now, I was originally going to make the entire robe fuzz-colored because after further inspection, I looked inside his robe. I went very deep, and I could see that all of his robe was just a full solid fur. It was all fur. There was no red. There was only red on the outside. But I figured that an entire wall of fur wouldn't be too exciting for the drawing, so I just decided to put red in the middle so I could spice it up a little bit. Another whim, but the wings are meant to resemble Dedede because he is always wearing his robe, and as a butterfly can just wrap their wings around themselves, as the wings are always with them, unless they just don't have their wings anymore, it kind of resembles this deep meaning between Dedede and the butterfly. You know, he can't butterfly. I believe that this was a fantastic design choice on my part. I worked really hard on this, and I'm actually pretty proud of it. That was a pretty long explanation, but I thought really hard about that one, so I decided that it was important to mention. In fact, it was so difficult that it took around 15 seconds max to actually plan it out fully. I actually really struggled with it, despite how I'm making it sound. But speaking of something hard, difficult, and easy to struggle with, let's get on to the hammer! His footsteps are strong enough to create craters in the earth. Those who faced him have burned to ash upon contact. The unrelenting, the unreachable, weighing in at 37 pounds. The Star Stomper! This one wasn't really that hard. I just envisioned how wasps only exist to hurt you, took that idea, and decided to apply it to the Dedede fly. We're calling it the Dedede fly now. Now let's fly straight up to his eyes. The Dedede fly has eyes strong enough to pierce the soul. Eyes strong enough to force me to keep drawing because it haunts me at every night, knowing that I fear it and what it'll do to me if I don't abide by its demands. It was actually my intention to make him stare down at the viewer of the drawing, and I'm glad that at least one person made it aware that they took note of that. Thank you to that one person. Let's take a nice one look at his face again. All right, and we're going back down to his throat. As an inexperienced artist, I don't really understand how to make a very detailed throat just yet. So I kind of just threw some somewhat parallel lines together, and I think it came out looking like a throat, so that's very cool. Now let's talk about those abs. So the design under his abs is the one that's usually on his belt. I threw that into the mix since I didn't want to leave it out. I was pretty close to doing it, to be honest. I almost forgot about it. I almost forgot about the little blue strip that's on his belt as well. I didn't even notice that existed before a really deep research. I should also clarify that if you didn't notice by now, the drawing was attempted from a low perspective. You might assume this by the shading. Of course, the shading was done a little bit oddly in some places, but by the time I realized that this drawing was from a low perspective, I realized that I also instinctively done it from a front-facing perspective, which was definitely a mistake on my part, but upon realization, I could have definitely redrawn it, but at the time, I was hungry. Hungry for that subscription? Hit the subscribe! That was definitely a misplay on my part, but speaking of miss, if you feel like I missed some important trait of Dedede in my rendition, mention it please. Also, something else I put effort into was this video. You should check it out. I swear it'll be worth your time. Thanks for watching.